What's up, guys? Recently, I picked up a Halo 4 Special Edition Xbox 360 for a really good price. I'd show you the console, but right now it's in pieces because it was sold to me as not working, and I only decided to make this video after I was a ways into attempting to repair it. Now, when I first got the system, it had what was essentially a red ring of death, but without the red ring because it's a Slim. I don't know exactly what went wrong with it, but based on the secondary error codes it was giving, I'm pretty sure it had something to do with either the South Bridge or the RAM. Whatever the problem is, this motherboard is beyond my ability to diagnose or repair, so I need to replace it. That's okay though, because I have a donor console on hand. This is a slightly older 360 Slim that I RGH modded a while ago, and it's mostly just been sitting around ever since. As you can see, the vent grate on this one is falling apart, and the case is covered in some nasty residue left over by the bumper stickers the previous owner had on here. By the way, this is what it looks like after I already took a generous helping of Goog onto it. What's left on here is no longer sticky, but it absolutely does not want to come off. Needless to say, I don't feel too bad about scrapping this housing. Now before we get started, I'm just going to do a quick test to make sure the motherboard in this system is still working. Sure enough, it powers up and boots into Freestyle Dash, so we should be good to go. Now I went ahead and did the actual disassembly off camera because it's a tedious and annoying process and I don't have a good setup to film this kind of thing. Here's the donor console torn down to the chassis, and it only took about 10 minutes of fighting to open the plastic clips that keep these things entombed. While taking apart the system, I found something that I'd forgotten about. When I first RGH modded this console, I didn't have the right resistor on hand, so instead I used this potentiometer and slowly adjusted it until the console booted reliably. I've never seen anyone else do this, but it's a neat little trick that I thought I'd share in case someone else finds it useful. Now even though I have both consoles taken apart, we can't do the motherboard swap just yet. You see, Special Edition Xbox 360 Slims are fairly unique in terms of limited edition game consoles. Usually, whatever makes these systems special doesn't extend beyond the plastic housing, but for the 360 Slims, most special editions have actual internal hardware differences. The Halo console has a custom front panel with blue LEDs, but that's easy to swap over because it's just a piece that plugs into the motherboard. The real difference is on the motherboard itself. On a standard Slim 360 motherboard, you'll find this component, which is a small piezoelectric speaker. This is what makes the chime sound you hear when the power button is pressed. On most Special Edition consoles, that speaker is replaced with a connector for a larger, louder speaker that mounts to the bottom of the case. The reason for this change is that on these systems, the normal power button chime is replaced with a custom sound that matches the theme of the console, and those custom sounds tend to not come through well on a speaker that's only designed to make buzzes and beeps. These differences mean that if I were to just swap the donor board in as is, then this Special Edition Halo 4 Xbox 360 would lose one of the things that makes it a Special Edition Halo 4 Xbox 360. Seeing as this is one of the rarer Xbox 360 variants, I really don't want to do that, so it's time to make some modifications to the donor board. The first order of business is pretty straightforward. Just pull the speaker connector off the old board and use it to replace the piezoelectric speaker on the new one. This ended up being a little bit trickier than I expected. It was a challenge to get the speaker connector off without damaging it. I also accidentally pulled off one of the solder pads on the donor board while removing the piezoelectric speaker, but luckily the connection point for the speaker has two sets of pads because these two parts that can go here each have different leg spacings. Unfortunately, the secondary contact points are already filled in with solder, so instead of trying to force a through-hole connection, I used adhesive foam to secure the connector to the board and made a surface mount connection to the pads. This is less mechanically sound than it would normally be, but it should still be plenty secure. Now for another quick power on test to make sure everything still works. It still boots up, and that new speaker is a lot louder than the old one. There's still one more change I need to make to the donor board, and this one is a lot more involved. I have to somehow replace the normal button chime sounds with the custom sounds from the Halo console. Luckily, I'm not the first person to want to do this, and some very smart people have already figured out how to inject new sound files into the Xbox's ISD sound chip. This process requires some sort of flashing tool, which in my case is a Raspberry Pi Pico. This is the one I'm going to use, and it's the same one that I use as a NAND programmer for RGH modding, as you can tell from the wires that are already soldered to it. This works out perfectly because the Pico Flash or firmware that's needed for NAND programming can also be used for injecting custom sound files. I just need to wire up these 6 GPIO pins to the Xbox motherboard. Thankfully, all the points you need to connect are on the rear of the motherboard near the south bridge, so there's no need to remove the heatsink like you have to do for RGH wiring. Once again, I did the actual work here off camera, but this is the end result. It's kind of a mess, and I definitely could have done a better job on this, but it's not really worth the effort considering that this only needs to stay connected long enough to flash the ISD chip. One other thing I want to point out is the actual wire that I'm using here. This gray wire is all from an old IDE ribbon cable, which, if you didn't know, is one of the best places to source wire for projects like this. These cables are both super common and obsolete, so they're dirt cheap, often to the point of being free. The wire inside them is usually very thin solid core copper, which is perfect for these tiny solder points. The only real downside is that these wires aren't color-coded, so you have to be extra careful not to mix things up. Anyway, now that I've got the Pico flasher attached, it's time to head over to the computer and actually replace the sound files on this thing. The easiest way to do that is with JRunner, which has an entire built-in tool for this exact purpose. Just go to Tools, ISD Sound Editor to open the interface. The really neat thing is that this program includes built-in presets with all the custom sound files from the different Special Edition Xbox 360s. I thought I was going to have to hunt down the correct sound files and import them manually, but nope, it literally just takes 2 clicks to do what I want. That's not to say I didn't hit any snags though. The first one is that the ISD chip can't be read unless the Xbox is connected to power, same as if you were doing NAND programming for an RGH mod. In hindsight, this requirement should have been obvious, but the guide I was following never explicitly mentions that the console needs power. The other issue I ran into is that the ISD chip couldn't be read until I had unplugged and reconnected the Raspberry Pi to the computer. I'm not sure why I had to do this, but after that, everything worked perfectly. Now it's time for the single sketchiest power-on test of this entire project. I've got the console sitting upside down as to not disturb the wiring in case I need to reflash the ISD chip. The speaker is plugged in and dangling off to the side over here. I don't know if you can see that in the video. Now I'm going to turn it on and make sure the sound plays, and then very quickly turn it off before something breaks. Mission successful. I wasn't able to hit the power button contacts a second time with the console at this angle, so I wound up just yanking the power cord to turn it off. Now, before we move on, I wanted to talk a bit more about this sound mod because it's actually the reason I decided to turn this project into a video. Unlike some other topics I've discussed on this channel, the ISD sound injection mod is mature and well documented. The impression I got while doing research, though, was that a lot of people who mod Xbox 360s either don't know or don't care that this is a thing you can do. Heck, I only found out about it because of the console repair I'm doing in this very video. I never would have thought to look into this topic otherwise. It turns out that custom Xbox 360 button sounds are a surprisingly deep rabbit hole that's had relatively little coverage, so I'm here to share what I've learned. The exact version of this mod that I did is a relatively recent development, but from what I can tell, ISD sound injection has been around for almost as long as the Xbox 360 Slim. The original method of doing this required using an adapter board made by Team Executor called the Sonus 360. These boards use an RGH glitch chip programmer to do the ISD injection. This is what the ISD editor in JRunner was originally designed for, with Pico flasher support being added later. There was also a version of the Sonus 360 produced for fat consoles that stores the sound files on board and adds an internal speaker, which these systems don't normally have. That version was later adapted to work with the Xbox 360E. The really neat thing about this mod board is that in addition to the power and eject button sounds, it can also be connected to a glitch chip to play a third custom sound when a reset glitch is triggered. That's really cool and actually kind of useful. All these different mod boards stopped being produced sometime around the mid-2010s, but an open source clone of the fat Sonus 360 was released in 2020. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anyone currently selling these boards, so if you want to get a hold of one today, you'll either need to make it yourself, get something custom ordered, or hope you get lucky and find some new old stock of the original Sonus 360. If you're going the DIY route though, a better option these days is to use the JQ6500 MP3 module. These can be used with both fat and slim consoles, and have the additional advantage of being able to play larger, higher quality sound files. YouTuber The Modsmith has a great video on how to install one of these that I'll link down in the description, along with all the other resources I've been referencing. Now the really cool thing about all these different sound mods is that while they've always been tightly integrated with the RGH mod, you don't actually need an RGH console in order to use them. All of these methods will work on any of the 360 models they're compatible with, even if the system is completely stock. Getting back to the original focus of this video, I've gotten the console mostly put back together, But before I can button it up completely, I need to run one more test. I realized that I have yet to confirm if this console can read discs. I don't remember if the disk drive from the donor console even worked to begin with, and yes, this is the drive from the donor console, even though it's got the Halo drawer cover on it. I swapped that out already. Xbox 360 DVD drives are encrypted with a key that ties them to a specific motherboard, so if this drive doesn't work, I'm going to have to take everything apart and go through the process of marrying the other DVD drive to this motherboard. Well, the disk drive does seem to work, though it is very loud, so we're all good. Jumping ahead a bit more, and here we have the fully assembled console. There are a few small scuffs on the case, but overall I think this turned out really nice. I'm very happy with the end result here. That just about does it for the hardware side of things, but there are a few more finishing touches I want to add in software. First up is installing the Aurora dashboard to the larger 320GB drive that was in the Halo console. With that all set up, I installed a custom Halo-themed skin for Aurora and replaced the background image with this blue Halo 4 wallpaper in order to better match the console. The next thing I did was use a tool called Fake-Anim to replace the stock boot animation with this custom one, which matches the blue LEDs on the console and controller. Speaking of the controller, the original analog sticks were worn down and falling apart, so for one final touch, I went ahead and replaced them with new aluminum sticks that won't wear down. And with that, I believe I have now finished restoring this Halo 4 Xbox 360. Now, my original plan for this console was just to put it up on eBay or Craigslist or something, but since I started this video partway through the restoration, I decided I'd give my small but growing community of subscribers the opportunity to buy it first, potentially for a lower price than I'd be listing it for on a public marketplace. I've decided to do this blind auction style. The way it's going to work is that I've set up a burner email account which is on screen now. If you're watching this video within a week of the initial upload date, you can send an email to this address with your bid and a link to your YouTube channel. Whoever submits the highest bid before this date will win the console, and I'll be in touch to work out payment and shipping details. In the event of a tie, the winner will be whoever submitted their bid first. Also, as a bonus, the winner will receive their choice of 2 titles from this pile of random games. If you don't specify which games you want when you submit your bid, you'll be getting a copy of Kinect Adventures and Just Dance Kids if you win. Now, there are a few rules here. 1. Only one bid may be submitted per person. The minimum bid is $150, which is right around the break-even point for the cost of this project. 2. All bids must be submitted in US dollars. If there's any sort of currency conversion that needs to be done, we can work that out if you win. 3. I am willing to cover up to $25 in shipping costs. That should be enough to get this thing sent anywhere in the continental United States. If you're outside of the US, I am still willing to ship to you, but you'll need to cover any costs beyond $25. Finally, the YouTube channel you link in your email must be at least 6 months old and be publicly subscribed to this channel. The reason for this is twofold. 1, this requirement should prevent bots and scammers from submitting bids, and 2, I plan to publicly announce the winner once the console has been paid for and shipped off. This is so there's a level of transparency, and people can see that I'm not scamming anyone. Just make sure you're okay with me drawing public attention to whatever YouTube channel you send me. Now, I've never done anything quite like this before, so hopefully these guidelines will allow it to all go smoothly, and good luck to anyone who submits a bid. Now, before I go, I wanted to quickly address the status of my XEB Plus Neutrino Launcher project, because I know there will be people in the comments asking about it. There have been some minor updates released since my last video, mostly developed by Mega Bitmap, who's done an excellent job of fixing bugs and cleaning things up. I have been working on adding IGR support to Neutrino when I can find the time and mental bandwidth for it, but I've been getting a bit burned out on PS2 development lately, and there are other projects I want to get done, so it might still be a while. That being said, I do have a couple other videos in the pipeline, one of which is a different PS2 related thing, so keep an eye out for that. As always, a huge thank you to my channel members who help make these videos possible. You can join them down below if you want to support me, or just subscribe if you want to see more of these projects. I'll see you guys later.